Hey guys, Will here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to our video series on building a racing simulator. So today's video, I wanted to show you how I made this really awesome replica style Formula 1 gauge pod here that's sitting on top of my wheel. So if you're not into Formula 1 racing, that's fine. Don't click off the video because as you'll see later on, you can actually use this for a massive range of different screens, and you can even design your own screens to suit whatever racing sim you're into. So it's really versatile and really broad in terms of its application. The first thing I'll do is I'll show you what it actually all looks like up and running, and then I'll take you through the process of how we've actually mounted the device to the top of the wheel here, how we've got that all set up, how we've actually made all the software talk to itself so that it can bring all the data up here. So by the end of this video, you'll be fully equipped to build something like this on your own. Now, the first question that you might be wondering is how much did all of this actually cost? So in my case, it was actually completely free. All of the software was completely free. The 3D printed mount that I'm using to actually mount the device here, I've got my own 3D printer, so I was able to just print that, and the plans for that were actually available for free off the internet as well, so I didn't even have to design that. I just used an old Android smartphone that I had laying around already, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, if you don't already have a phone or something like that you can use, you can just use your normal phone and just mount it in there, or you can just buy a really cheap second-hand phone that you can use. All you really need to use is a web browser. So that covers off the first question. It basically is going to cost you as much as you want it to cost. You could go all out and buy a high-end device and buy a beautiful 3D printed bracket or something like that, but you really don't need to spend a lot of money to achieve this. So anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. I'll show you how it's all mounted and how it's all set up on the device here. Then we'll get into the software side and showing you how it all works. So perhaps the coolest thing is the launch mode, which you can see. You can see the 3 bars. You kind of have to line up with the throttle, and when they're all positioned together is the ideal throttle position for launch. So it's not actually a launch control in that it's not controlling the throttle for you, but it gives you an indicator as to where you should launch from, which is a bit of a help. It's improved my launches a little bit. But going through here, you can see all the same data that you would normally have on the steering wheel display inside the game. So our lap number, our position in the race, our RPMs. We've also got our distance to the car behind us, our lap time, which obviously isn't showing up yet because it's the first lap, gear, and then down the right hand side we've got our total time or our lap time. We've got our tyre temperature for each corner. We've got our ERS, DRS and engine mode. And then we've also got our storage capacity, which you can see going up there under braking. It also will decrease when we're deploying ERS. We've got our harvesting amount and our deployment amount as well. And you can see when I twiddle the knobs, it'll actually show up what I've adjusted as well. So you can see there I'm adjusting my fuel mix. And when we come into the pits as well, we've got a really awesome feature that shows up when we've got our pit limiter enabled. So you can see there switching it on, and that will remain enabled throughout the range of the pit stop. And then as soon as we come out of the pits, we'll click it back off again. Okay, so as you can see here, the phone itself is just mounted on a bracket which I was able to print off Thingiverse, and I modified it slightly to suit this phone. You could easily design something yourself to print for your specific phone, but I found that this particular design was pretty easy. Now you can see just here, it's actually mounted in the factory screw holes, which are redundant when you don't have anything mounted there. So this wheel is actually designed to have something there, but I mean, it depends on the wheel that you've got, all that kind of thing. So you can fabricate something pretty easily out of wood, or possibly even thick cardboard if you're not so technically inclined. But in my case, I was able to print this off Thingiverse, and I will provide the link for you down below as well in the description to the exact plan that I used, and just 3D printed it. So down the bottom you can see I've got my charging plug there. This is just a magnetic one that sits in there, and that simply just runs down the rig. Now I haven't tidied up all my wiring yet, as you can see, but there's the cable there, and it just plugs into my USB hub down below to get power all the time. Now there's a couple of little setup tips and tricks that you need to do to make the phone so that you don't have to go through menus every single time you want to use it, and I'll get into that a little bit later on in the video as well. But that is as simple as it is in terms of hardware. It's just an Android smartphone. You can use an iOS device if you want to. You could use a tablet. Really depends. But you can see from where I'm sitting, this is where my head is in the car. It sits really nicely, and really nice perspective there. So that is how it all works from a hardware perspective. So now we need to get into actually setting up the phone and setting up the software. So we'll start off on the PC, show you how to set up all the software, then we'll move across to the handset. Alright, so setting up the PC is relatively straightforward. First thing we need to do is go to Google and type in SimHub. Go to the first link that you'll see there. and we want to download the latest version. We can close that off, download the latest version, and you'll see it pop up down here. So let it download, click on it to open up the installation package, and follow the prompts on your screen to get the program installed. Okay, so once you've finished installing, double click on the Sim Hub icon on your desktop. If you don't have the icon on your desktop, just type it into the search bar and it'll pop up. So double click on that, and you'll be prompted with the screen like this. Now you can see here I have a licensed edition. If I just scroll down a tiny bit here, you'll see it. The unlicensed version, the only restriction on that is that the update rate is a little bit slower. It's around 10 frames per second instead of 60. Doesn't really make a practical difference, but I wanted to support this software package because I think it's a fantastic piece of software. So I actually did make a donation and receive my license file, which is why you see license here. But if you do want to do it completely for free, that is totally fine. You can do it that way as well. So you can see here all of the games that the program supports. And what we want to do now is go to Dash Studio. And you can see here all the dashboards which are installed by default. And I'll just drag this across as well, so we've got a full screen view. So these are all the dashboards that are installed by default. And then up here you can see I've got the, where is it? Down the bottom, the F1 2018 Beta 2, which is the one which I've installed. So this is what we're going to want to use if we want to run the dashboard exactly the same as you saw it at the start of the video for F1. But you can use all of these other dashboards out of the box as they are here. So let me just show you this one quickly here. So we'll go to more here and edit dashboard. And let me just drag this window down again so you get a better view. So in the edit view here, you can see there's like a matrix grid here of all the various different components. I won't go through how to actually create all of these now because there's plenty of videos and instruction tutorials around floating on the net. But basically you can see here there's a bunch of different screens that we can go through that show various different stats and things like that. So this is the level of customization, even just you know, stats about your PC temperature, load, GPU temperature and load, things like that as well are all available. So really the sky's the limit in terms of what you can do here. All it's relying on is the UDP telemetry data, which actually comes from the game. And we'll show you how to set that up a little bit later. So basically what we want to do now is actually install this F1 package here. Okay, so open up your browser again, and this time we're going to type in F1 2018 Dash Studio. So search for that, click on the first race department link that shows up. Now, when this is final release, it's obviously not going to be beta anymore. So that's the reason why we don't type in the beta 2, because chances are when you're watching this video, it won't be beta 2 anymore. But if you go to F1 Dash Studio, you can see here, scroll down, it should look something like this. And you can see here all the various different screens that we saw before. One of the ones I didn't show you actually was the virtual safety car delta. So there's actually a bar there that you can see that shows you how far off the ideal target you are. So it goes red if you're under. So you want to keep the bar pretty much in the middle here when you're under virtual safety car conditions. But anyway, scroll back up again. What we want to do is hit download. Now this time it should be a lot faster to download because it's only an 11.5 megabyte file, but we're going to need a archive extraction tool to do this. So some people like to use WinZip or WinRAR. I personally use 7-Zip because it's a very, very, very powerful zip program that is free and does pretty much everything. So we can close our browser off again now. Also close off SimHub as well. We're not going to need that open just for the moment. And we should now have our Dash Studio beta zip file here. So we right click and open the archive. And you can see here we've got Dash Studio and we've got a file here which we're going to want to extract. So drag that out and I'm going to replace it because I've already downloaded it previously. So that file now sits there. And then we've also got this JavaScript extensions folder as well. So drag that out as well, let that extract. And then we can close off. So you should now see you've got the original zip file that you downloaded, or the RAR file that you downloaded. You've got the plugin file for SimHub, and then you've got your JavaScript extensions as well. So first, double click on the F1 2018 SimHub file, and that will install the actual plugin for you. And then we also need to deal with these JavaScript extension files as well. So open that, and you can see there's two files there. What we want to do to install that is right click on your SimHub shortcut and go open file location. Scroll up to the JavaScript extensions folder. And you can see they've actually already got them installed. But what you would do is just drag those two across into here, and that would complete that installation for you. So now we can open up SimHub again. And what we can do now is we go down to Dash Studio, and we'll scroll down to the bottom, and you'll now see your freshly installed F1 2018 plugin here. So what we want to do is click on Start. And you can see here we've got a couple of options. I'll just move that up for you so you can see it properly. So we can start it on a USB screen, we can start it on a phone or tablet in a window mode, on a second monitor, and so forth. So if you're using a secondary monitor, for example, as your little HUD, you would open on a secondary monitor, or you can open it in a window. So if we open it as a window, you can see it would just look like that. But in this case, what we're wanting to do is we're actually wanting to open it on a mobile device. So what we would do is we click on, and we'll just find it again quickly. I think it's moved up to the top now because we've used it. So click on start again, we go open on phone or tablet. And now we have an IP address which we need to enter into our browser on the mobile device, or we can use the QR code to load it as well. So the next step now is we need to move across onto the actual mobile device and show you how to configure all of that so we get it working. Okay, so over to the mobile device. Now this is a freshly factory reset device that has no accounts logged into. So there's no Facebook, there's no Gmail, there's no nothing that's going to pop up and interrupt us while we're trying to drive. And there's a couple of things you need to do. The first thing you need to do is connect to a wireless network. So we go to settings and to our Wi-Fi, and you can do this on iOS or Android. It doesn't really matter, but in my case I'm using Android, so I'm going to show you how to use Android. Now the phone needs to be on the exact same network as the PC is for this to work. Now don't freak out and think that that means that you have to be on Wi-Fi on your PC as well. That's not the way networks work. As long as you're connected to the same LAN, that's fine. So in my case, my PC is actually hardwired to my router, but then the phone is connected via Wi-Fi, but because they're on the same network, they can still talk to each other with no problem. And then we'll jump back out, go back into settings. Now there's a little tip that I've got for you here as well. You want to go down to About Phone, scroll all the way to the bottom. Now you'll find build number there. So you want to tap on that a bunch of times. Now you can see in my case it's saying you no need, you're already a developer. If you haven't done this before, it'll pop up with a countdown menu, and then it'll say congratulations, you're now a developer. And what that does is it unlocks a new secret menu here, which you can see called developer options. Now depending on the version of Android that you're running will determine whereabouts it shows up in the menu, but it'll be there somewhere. So we tap on developer options, and then we've got this little gem here that says stay awake. And what that means is that the phone will stay awake all the time that it's plugged into a charger. The screen won't dim and it won't go to sleep or anything like that, which is perfect for when you're driving, because obviously you don't want to be having to switch it back on and unlock it all the time. So that's literally all you need to do in terms of setup of the phone. You don't need to have any other software installed to make this work. Everything else just works through the browser. So the next thing we want to do is go into Chrome. And you want to type in the IP address that came up before in SimHub. So you'll remember there was the QR code and the IP address. So type that in to your browser bar here, hit enter, and then you can scroll through here and you can see all the various different dashes which are available, including the one that we installed previously, which should be at the top now because I've used it previously. So F1 2018 Beta 2 in my case, so I'll tap on that one and it'll load up. Now obviously we're not going to get the actual data right now because the game isn't running. But from here what we can do is we can tap on the three dot menu and tap on add to home screen, and this will actually add a shortcut to our home screen on the phone itself, so we won't need to go through and type in the URL every time if we've used the phone for something else. So we just hit add and that creates the icon on the home screen. So then what we want to do is we want to tap full screen, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So now what we need to do is just do a couple of final configurations to the game itself, and we're good to go. Okay, so back onto the PC now and back into SimHub, and you can see up the top here, you've got a little section here that has additional instructions for the configuration of various different games. So a lot of games just work kind of straight out of the box, but then sometimes you do need to do some configuration as well. And I'll show you how to do the configuration for F1 2018 in just a moment. But I just wanted to show you a quick example. So for Project Cars, for example, you click on Open Instructions, and it gives you a nice little how-to image that tells you exactly how you need to set it all up to make it work properly for your particular usage case. So very, very handy, and depending on the game that you've got selected will depend on the instructions that are shown. So you can see there's a text how-to for a different game and so forth. So, and obviously not going to go through all of those right now. What I wanted to show you is the configuration of F1 2018. So we'll jump into the game quickly for you now, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so inside the game, we hit F2 for game options, we scroll to settings, then we go down to telemetry settings here. Now, what we need to do is we need to make sure that D-Box is turned on. Fanatic LEDs is not really relevant to this. This is just the LEDs that are on the screen itself. SLI Pro LED can remain off. Now, what we need to do is we need to make sure that our local IP address and ports are set up correctly here. So basically, just copy the settings that I've got here, 127.0.0.1 for the IP address, UDP port 20777, 60 Hertz for your send rate. Now the lower you have that, the less it will refresh. So 60 Hertz is obviously faster. The faster the better. And then UDP format to 2018 mode. And that's it. So now when we go into the actual game, start playing, it will all just work. So that's it, guys. As you can see, really simple to set up, a lot easier than you might have otherwise thought, and also very cheap provided you use the smartphone that you already have or have an old smartphone laying around that you can use. So I hope you found the video interesting and useful. Do stick around because we've got a whole bunch of more videos coming up on this simulator. We've got to finish off all of our wiring, and then we've got to get stuck into adjusting seating position, getting all of that set up correctly, and then getting into actually reviewing all of the hardware. So we've got to review the FGT cockpit setup, we've got to review the wheel, the wheelbase, all that kind of stuff, the TV. There's a whole bunch of stuff to get through yet. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one, and of course hit that notification bell too so you don't miss out. But for now, I'm going to get stuck back into testing this thing out, so I will see you in the next video. Bye.